In this video, we're looking at absolute value functions. So we can graph these using two methods. The first one is using the X and Y intercepts, and it's fairly quick. But the second one is what I would call like the foundationary skill for all graphing, which is the table of values. So the first one here, we have fx equals the absolute value of x plus 6. So we're going to use the X and Y intercept equation method here to graph this. So the first thing we need to do is find our x-intercepts. Now remember, we find the x-intercepts when y equals 0. So what I'm going to do is, if I have y equals the absolute value of x plus 6, I know that 0 equals the absolute value of x plus 6. So therefore, when it equals 0, we don't have to do any tricks here. So it's just going to be x plus 6 equals 0. Minus 6 minus 6. So x equals negative 6. Alright, so that's the x-intercept. Now over here, we're going to find our y-intercept. And that's when x equals 0. So over here, we know that y equals 0 plus 6. So y equals 6. Okay. Now that we've done that, we can quickly, let me just redo that, draw a graph. So here we have this, we have 6 on this side here, and we have negative 6 over here. Now an absolute value, remember, means you cannot have negative answers. They're always going to be positive. So I know it's crossing up here and here. So from 6 to 6, that makes sense. Instead of going through the x-axis, what actually happens when you graph in an absolute value function is, remember, you cannot have those negative y values. So what actually happens is it goes up in the opposite direction. So it goes up here. Okay? So you'll notice that all these kind of absolute value graphs will have somewhat of a shape like that triangle going down, hitting a point, and then bouncing back up. Okay? Sometimes it is below the x-axis, and we'll come into that later. But for now, that's your basic shape. It's that kind of like that triangle, straight down, hit a point, come back up. Alright, so here we have sketch fx equals the absolute value is 3x, and then you have plus 1 on the right. So we need to somehow solve this. So remember, with the table of values, the whole point is to substitute in your x value that you've picked, and then you'll get some sort of y value. So if I was to try and find this value here, what I would be doing is going, well, fx equals the absolute value of 3 times negative 3 plus 1. So what that does is that gets me the absolute value of negative 9 plus 1. But remember, if you have a negative inside the absolute value, it's essentially a positive. So we have plus 1 equals 10. So we get 10 there. Now you continue to do this. So let's say hypothetically I wanted to do this one over here. Fx, the absolute value of 3 times 1 plus 1. We get the absolute value of 3, which is just 3 plus 1, which is 4. Okay. Now you continue to do this until eventually your whole table's filled up. So 7, 4, 1, 7, 10. And that makes sense because it looks like we're starting to flip and go the same way. So let's put our critical value points on there. So we know that the y-intercept is at 1 here, and it also is our lowest point. So what happens now if I zoom in? We're going to go up here like that, and then we're going to go out here like that. Okay? So there you go. Those are your two ways. The quicker way is probably the X and Y intercept way, but if you always forget or you feel like you can't do it, you've also got your table of values as a backup. It's the foundation for all your graphing skills.